What's going on, everybody? It's all about comics. I'm Joe, or Frost, whatever you want to call me. And this is our guest, Mr. Doug Wagner. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I was zoning out earlier, but I'm doing good. Watched some football. Football was good today. A couple injuries, not too bad. So we're all right. So, yeah, I mean, for those people that don't know, you write the comic book Plastic, and more recent right now is The Hard Place.
Yep. So
All
Plastic was a 5-issue miniseries that just ended last month.
Mm-hmm.
And The Hard Place picked right up the same day, actually, with number 1. And number 2, I think, came out last week.
Yes, last week, number 2 of The Hard Place. Yep, I picked that up. When I met you at the con, I was like, you told me about that book, and I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting, so I picked it up from you. I came home, I read it, and I was like, okay, this is your typical guy goes to prison, guy gets out of prison, tries to keep his nose clean, and it doesn't really work that well. And he gets dragged into stuff. I'm like, okay, it's your typical one. But I was interested because I wanted to know what was going on, or I want to know what's going on with that whole car accident that's going on into it. So I read it. I was like, okay. So then issue 2 came out. I picked that up as well, which I don't have on hand. I normally have it on hand, but it's in the short box. But I read that one, and I liked the little twist that was in there with the young lady. And when I flipped the page and I seen the guy, I was like, wait a minute, wasn't that the guy from the first page or from the first comic? I was like, uh-oh. I was like, man, this is not going to be good. So I can't wait for issue 3 to come out. So I have that on my pull list. I'm waiting for it. So once I get that, I'm going for it. That's what 5 or 6 issues for The Hard Place.
Yeah,
5 issues on that. Now, are any one of these Plastic or The Hard Place going to be season 2, so to speak?
Well, I can't confirm nor deny anything on that stuff yet.
Okay. So we have a few people in the chat. No questions just yet. We have our buddy Midwest Comic Man. He's a cool guy. Jason Smith, Big East Comics. He runs a really good show as well called The New York Warriors. Obviously, they're based out of New York. We have Cat Wren Figures, who enjoyed Plastic. I remember when I posted on Facebook, she said she can't wait for this. So, yeah, I mean, we have a few people in the chat right now. It'll eventually build up,
Oh, yeah.
So if anyone of you guys in the chat have a question, feel free to ask, and I'll ask the gentleman for you, and we'll get it going. So what made you come up with Plastic? Because I read issue 1, and because everybody was talking about it, and I was like, all right. So I went and I read it. I picked it up. I read it, and I was like, this is totally not for me, but this is one weird-ass comic. So explain how you came up with that comic. Like, what made you come up with that?
Yeah, Plastic's an odd one. I mean, it's one of those where I was on a road trip.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going from Atlanta to Baltimore. We were going to the Baltimore show that year. And I was in the car with Brian Stelfreeze, who does Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
And then Eric Layton, who's the anchor on he works for Aftershock as an anchor.
Okay, yeah.
Paris book. And I can't remember it off the top of my head. But we were all traveling because we didn't want to ship the booth. We were going to drive up there and save ourselves a couple $100. And it was the strangest, most surreal, like it was a movie style road trip in the weird way. Like we were in a town where nobody had any teeth. I mean, nobody. Like we went to the Hardee's and nobody had any teeth.
No teeth.
No teeth.
Wow.
And then we saw this little kid that was locked up in the back of a car, like a caged car. He was 10 years old and he's just holding a teddy bear.
That's weird.
So we're seeing all this strange stuff as we're going. And as we're going across the Virginia state line, I see the sign, Buckle Up, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, Buckle Up, Virginia. And I was kind of making fun of that. Instead of a welcome sign, they had a Buckle Up, Virginia sign.
Mm-hmm.
And the second I said it, I started laughing. And I don't know how the universe necessarily works, but the entire idea for Plastic popped in my head.
Wow.
Yeah.
All because of Buckle Up.
Yeah. And so I immediately turned and told Brian and Eric kind of what I was thinking, and they both loved it and said, dude, you got to do that. Like, there's nothing else out there like that.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's a weird one.
And then just hooked up with Daniel Hillier, the artist. Mm-hmm. And, I kind of had the basics all down. And we kind of started really digging into how we wanted to deliver everything visually you know, how we kind of wanted to play with people's emotions a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, lucky enough, I mean, Eric Stevenson and Image picked it up, and it was, you know, it's obviously done well for us, so we love it.
Now, when you wrote it, am I on? Did I get the thing here? No, it's on me. Do you have the YouTube open on your end?
What's that?
Do you have the YouTube video open on your end?
Yeah, I do.
You want to mute it? Because is it mute? Because I'm hearing the feedback. I know it's muted on my end this time. There we go. Oh no, wait, you muted yourself.
Okay, how do I mute the?
All right. Well, no, you're good now. We're good.
Oh, okay.
Cool. Yeah, we're good. Now, when you wrote it all, you put it all into your whole script and everything like that, and you handed it over to the other gentleman to go ahead and do the artwork. Now, did you guys actually make the book yourself first and then turn it into Image, or did you guys just do the script and then just handed it to Image and say, "Hey, look, this is what we're looking to do. We have an artist to do stuff." Like, how did it come about to getting picked up by Image?
Daniel and I had actually worked together on a couple of smaller books. 12-gauge comics, and loved working together. We're both, when we're working on a book, we're pretty much egoless. And, you know, that's great because it's like, it's all about the book. It's not about who's right or wrong. It's like, how can we make this book the best? And so I knew I wanted to work with him. So I pitched to him and he loved the idea. And I was like, well, let me see if I can find us a publisher, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, no, I'm ready to go. Let's do it. So we actually did the first 3 issues. It was completely penciled and inked before we showed it to anybody.
Nice. Okay.
And Daniel was at that point was completely doing it for free.
Okay.
Well, all of us were working for free. So we showed it to Eric. I had a meeting with Eric Stevenson. I think it was 2015 San Diego. And I showed him, you know, the pages and pitched him the quick pitch. And you know, much to my surprise, he was like, "Yeah, I love it. I want it. Let's do it."
Right.
And came up. Yeah.
That's crazy. Now, I mean, you had a thing in the back from Eric, from Robert Kirkman,
right?
As well, like, did you have to pitch it to him as well, or did he just pick it up and just read it one day?
That's where Eric loved it. So Eric took it back, and I mean, even in the meeting, Eric already had a month that he wanted the book to come out.
Wow.
So yeah, so I mean, he was like real serious about and real supportive, and I guess he went right back to Image right after San Diego and immediately showed it to Robert. And Robert loved it, and that's where we got the quote. Because immediately Robert was like, "Yeah, I love this book. We've got to do it."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, to just hand it in, and then one guy says it's getting done. We're having it come out in January. Don't worry about it. Make sure you just have it all said and done. So,
yeah.
That's crazy. Now with that book, you had, what was the gentleman's name who did the artwork on it?
Daniel.
Now, how did you guys come up with the art for it? Like, was it just something you guys just had in your mind? You were like, you know, I wanted to have all these vibrant colors, because you guys had some pretty nice colors in a dark scene in those books.
Right.
So it was kind of like, it was not contrasting. It was like perfect. You know, they popped and it was dark all at the same time. So you can tell there was the darkness in the comic, but there was still that light that was coming out. You know, how did you guys come up with that?
I mean, a lot of that now goes to Laura Martin, who, you know, is multi Harvey winner, multi Eisner winner, the first Ringo winner. So Laura, I've been friends with for a long time, and when we started talking about color, she was the first one Daniel and I immediately wanted, and we were lucky enough to talk her into it. And so I mean, she's just a genius at coloring, and luckily, her and Daniel found a really common area that they could work together and try to figure out how, you know, how much blacks do you want me to put in this, you know, or do you want me to leave that on you? Like, so they worked that kind of stuff out, but it did take a while for Daniel and I to really figure out the look of the book. I mean, when you did the first issue, kind of started looking it over and talking it over and realized we'd kind of missed some opportunities visually that we could go back and, like, the opening scene, you know, the opening love scene in the car. I was like, you know, this feels cool, but I don't think it's creepy enough. So we added more creepy trees, you know, dead animals, that kind of stuff. So it took a little while to kind of find what we wanted to do. But, you know, luckily once Daniel figured that out, it was easy after that. And of course, bringing Laura Martin on board, you know, I mean, she'd turn in stuff and go like, "Hey, do you guys have any changes?" And we're like, "Oh my God, this is beautiful." She goes, "No, I need to do some changes." You know, so it's just like,
that's funny. I mean, I always say, you know, a colorist can make or break a comic. I mean,
oh yeah,
It's just one of those things, like a colorist can make or break it. So you can have a good colorist, but that good colorist could just make your book to be the best book, aesthetically looking at it, and he's just, that random mediocre guy who's just the middle of the pack, just made your one comic book amazing. And I always say that, like, colorists, I think, are the ones that make and break the comic. I mean, yes, we get the great writing, yes, we can get some great artwork, but that colorist can mess up that artwork, which messes up you wanting to read the book, because you're just like, oh my god, like, this art is so horrible, and I can't read the book now. I mean, there's been a few books that I've gotten in the past where I can say that either it was the artist or the colorist that just ruined the whole book. I cared less about what was being written in it. So it was nice to see when I read the first issue that you guys had somebody who made that book pop. Like I said, it just popped. I'm like, okay, I can see the darkness in this book, but I can still see a bit of the lightness in this book as well, and what's going to be going on. I mean, because there was some humor to that book.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It was funny. There was some stuff that was funny in that first issue. I just was like, I can't go any further with this book. I don't know. And I know a few people were like, yeah, I'm kind of with you on this, but I got to know what happens. I'm like, I hear you. Go for it. And a lot of people enjoyed it. And I'm like, that's crazy. Now I feel like I need to go ahead and get the trade paperback and just read all the issues there, because you can't really find the 2, 3, 4, and 5, especially number 1, many places right now. I mean, it's sold out. I mean, didn't it go into a second print?
For first issue and second issue, first and second issue, we sold out day one.
Day one, right?
To find the first two, yeah.
Now, so when it sold out, I know, because I get those emails from Image saying, "Hey, this book is getting rushed back into a second printing." Now, what was the unit sales on that? Was that like 20,000, or no? That was less, right? That was like 10,000.
Oh, no. The first issue was, I believe, around 26.
Okay, and it sold out at 26.
Yeah.
For the first. Wow, that is a lot.
Yeah, I mean, dude, when I got that same email that you got, I stared at the screen probably for a good 10 minutes.
I was too, but I was waking up in the morning like, what?
I mean, we didn't expect that. We really didn't. We were thrilled when we got the initial orders, and they were over 20. And then when we found out we sold out day one, I mean, we weren't prepared. I mean, it's just one of those comics that there were people that were telling us it wasn't going to do well. There were plenty of people like, with the content in it, it's a dark comedy, there's horror mixture, and then, you throw in a blow up sex doll.
Yeah. That's what threw me off. I was like, no, what?
Yeah. I mean, Daniel and I understood going in, this isn't going to be a book for everybody, and that's fine. Right. I mean, we don't take offense to that. I think one of the best pieces of advice I ever received was from Brian Stelfreeze, who told me to always write books to where either people love them or hate them. Anything in between is a loss. Right. No, I agree with that. Yeah. So if somebody comes up and goes, I read it and it's okay, that's bad. Right. So, I mean, I read it. I enjoyed it. It just wasn't for me. I mean, it was very interesting. I was just like, nah, I can't do it. I'm like, like, I remember I told you that, and I felt bad. Like, when I left your booth, and I was looking at my buddy, I was like, did I just tell him I didn't really like that book? And he was like, yeah, I mean, you were honest. You weren't like being rude about it. I'm like, that's just jacked up. And then I asked him, do you want to be on the show? And he still says yes. I mean, I guess. And I'm like, I was thinking about that. I was like, God, I hope he doesn't think I'm a dick for that one. I mean, like, I was just being honest. It wasn't my cup of tea, but it wasn't bad. That's the one thing I like to get off when I do a review of a book. If it's bad, I'll say it's bad. But if it's not bad, I mean, I'm going to say it's not bad. It just it wasn't me. There's what book just came out? Legacy. It's not bad. I just felt it could have been better, being what it was. So, I mean, like, your book wasn't bad. I see it being good, and I can see there definitely be a niche for a lot of people that'll enjoy it. And there was. So I was like, sweet. My buddy Big E's, I think he showed up a little bit late. So he has a question, which we kind of went over a little bit. He wants to know the other projects you are currently working on. And the only other project you're currently working on now is The Hard Place, correct? That is correct. Yeah. That is the only one I can talk about. I can tell you that I'm going to probably have a couple more books coming out from Image next year. but I can't really talk about those yet.
Right.
So the only current one is the Hard Place.
The Hard Place. Now, we'll switch gears. We'll go from plastic over to Hard Place right now, because I like Hard Place. What sold me was Brian Stelfreeze's art on that friggin' Challenger.
Oh yeah.
I haven't seen somebody draw a Challenger so well, and not to mention like a side profile. You can draw the hell out of a side profile all day long, you know, but to get that top side angle view of it, I don't even know if Foose himself could have drawn a Challenger at that angle that well. That's what sold me, was that Brian Stelfreeze cover. And you know, I was standing at your booth like this going, do I get the more expensive one that's black and white, or do I get the color? The color just makes it pop. I just don't understand. So I got the, I got the standard cover, but I mean, that Brian Stelfreeze, he killed it. Now, he's not doing the interiors though.
No, that's Nick Rommel.
Nick Rommel. Now, why? So how come you don't have Brian doing the interiors as well?
Well, I mean, if I could get Brian to do the interiors on every book I did, of course I would.
Right.
But Brian's obviously working on, he's finishing up Black Panther when we were putting that book together.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I mean, the project was made initially for Nick. And actually, Brian is the one that introduced Nick and I to each other. So, yeah, it was just natural that once the book came out, if you notice, like even on plastic, we had Andrew Robinson do one cover and Daniel do one cover.
Yeah.
And on this one, we have Brian doing one cover and Nick doing one cover.
Yes.
So I know that variants help sales.
It does.
But to me, I want to make sure that the artists we're getting to do those variants are somewhat complementary to the artist that's already doing the book.
Absolutely.
And that they're an industry leader. So Andrew Robinson and Brian Stelfreeze are like no-brainers because they both perfectly fit both those books.
Right.
And Brian, I mean, Brian's good for 4 to 8 issues a year.
Mm-hmm.
And, so this just wasn't one that he was going to be able to fit in,
Well, like, how did he come up with that cover? Like, that's because like when I see that cover and I read the story, I'm like typically you can kind of put 2 and 2 together. This one, I'm like, where did he? I mean, I get the car. The car is part of that major accident that's in the book. But what? How did he come up with this whole skidding into that to that perfect pose? Like, how did that happen?
Well, I mean, I wish I could tell you. I mean, that's Brian Stelfreeze, and he's a mad genius in everything he does. But he basically read what Nick and I had already finished the books. The books are done.
Mm-hmm.
They're just waiting to be sent to the publisher. I mean, to the retailers.
Okay.
We sent it to him, and he kind of came up with this philosophy of he liked the idea of the title being called The Hard Place. Mm-hmm. So if you notice, AJ is actually in the background of that cover.
Yeah, in the silhouette.
Which is a very soft silhouette.
Yes. And
he felt like every character in the book has something that they care about that is a hard, inanimate object.
Mm.
And so he went, so AJ, it's cars. And it's going to be the car that's in the flashbacks.
Right.
So, that's what he told me basically. He's like, okay, and that's where I came up with the whole idea,
Okay, so then the first issue is basically AJ with the car. That's his hard place. And the second issue was I forgot her name. I think it was like Alexia or something like that.
Yeah, Alexia.
So the second cover was her, and that beautifully drawn Glock, by the way.
Right.
I was like, yeah, and I make gun accessories. Like I make gun parts. This is what I do. So when I see a Glock on a cover of a comic, I'm like, hey, I went to work. Hey, they're like, hey, I'm like, right. So we compared it to an actual real photo of a Glock and a real Glock, and we're like, he did pretty well. The most major detail that we've seen on it that I liked the most, and it was very noticeable, was on a Glock. When you cock it back and you put the lock back up, the barrel is cocked just ever so slightly. So if you look at the cover, the barrel is slightly cocked. So you just point up, you're like, it's like he had a Glock sitting right in front of him when he drew it. So, I mean, Stelfreeze is knocking out of the park with the covers.
Oh, yeah.
And the interior, I actually really like the interior, the way the interior is drawn. I mean, I like that. That I don't know. I want to say it's cartoony like, but kind of realistic at the same time.
Oh yeah.
It kind of reminds me of like Grand Theft Auto and what was that other video game? It was Grand Theft Auto and some other video game together as one. And I'm like, I like this. I really dug the artwork. So the artwork really stood out. And then obviously the writing, you know, the writing, it's not a hard read. It's a nice, smooth read, you know, because it wasn't like when I was Saints Row. Thanks, Jeff Johnson in the chat. Saints Row. That's the other game I was thinking of. Saints Row and Grand Theft Auto together in one. Yeah. So the writing of it that you have done in there is smooth. Like I have, you know, I grew up with troubles with reading, so that's why I read with comics. That's how some people are. You know, they read comics to help learn with reading. So when I read through things, sometimes I fumble my words. I noticed I never fumbled any of my words going through, you know, what I was reading through stuff. So I was like, hey, this is perfectly well done. You know, sometimes I'll go through a comic, I have to read it like 3-4 times because I know I'm messing up on stuff and I'm not understanding. I'm like, wait, what just happened? And I have to read it over and over. So the style of writing, even in plastic, it was smooth read. And that's why I'm like, it's pretty good. It's just not my cup of tea. But the book, I mean, The Hard Place, I really enjoy it. And I think you guys have something there. It's definitely a sleeper. I mean, I think later on, because it didn't sell out, did it? One didn't sell out, right?
We came really close, but we're not sold out yet on number 1.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a bummer because I really do enjoy it, but I understand it's not a book everybody's going to want to go jump out and get, but they will be kicking themselves in the ass when it gets optioned for something. They're like, dang it, because that book can essentially be optioned not only for a video game, but for maybe a TV show. I could see that. I could definitely see that for sure. There was a question in the chat here from Midwest Comic Man. He says, who would be your top 3 artists to work with?
I mean, this is always a tough one because I've worked with 2 of them already. And so like Brian Stelfreeze and Daniel, I love working with those guys just because we see things a lot of the same way and we're so critical and harsh on each other, but it's in a loving way. You know, and it's all about the story. So I love working with those guys. I mean, if you take those guys out, I don't know, man, it's tough. There's so many good artists in the industry. I mean, you know, and that's a tough
hard. It's a hard one, huh?
Yeah, Brian and Daniel, period, just because I've worked with them before and I absolutely love working with them. But then I love Cully Hamner's work. Sean Gordon Murphy, of course, is always on that list. Fiona Staples, Ryan Otley, you know, Lionel Yu, I love. You know,
Lionel Yu's good too, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, any of those, I mean, it really comes down to relationships to me. So there's plenty of artists that I'm sure would hate me if I worked with them because you know, I am one of those guys that'll just say, hey, panel 3 is not working for me. Can we take another, you know, let's look at why that's happening and see if we can't fix it. Right. You know, like Brian and Daniel and even Nick, I mean, all 3 of those guys have been fantastic to work with. And, you know, I would love to work with all of them again. So, you know, that's a tough one though. There's so many good artists out there.
I mean, absolutely. You named a bunch right there. I mean, those were all really good ones.
Yeah.
So with that being said, who would you want to do a cover for you?
Dude, I think that's an endless list too. Like, there's so many great artists out there. I mean, and it's so. I mean, when I go to cons and stuff, half the time I'm you know, wiping my mouth because I'm looking at somebody's art, going, "Oh my God!"
Right.
I mean, there's so many. You know, Stuart Eminem and Adam Hughes and Dustin Nguyen and like I said, the list is endless, man. It's just like everybody I already mentioned, plus added at least another 20 or 30 on there without even thinking about it.
Imagine Adam Hughes doing a blow-up doll for plastic. It'd be very interesting to see.
Yeah, it's a. I mean, I'm already lucky because I've worked with so many great artists that are easy to work with. Like they're really, you know, when I find somebody that really cares about the book more than they care about themselves, that always. I mean, that's just it makes it easy. And having Andrew Robinson and Brian Stelfreeze do covers, you know, that's a dream come true in itself.
Right. Now, how did you come up with The Hard Place?
The Hard Place, man, I'm trying to remember how that idea took a while for me to. I had to stew on that one for a while because I knew I had this initial thing of a guy getting out of jail and getting caught up in a bank robbery by happenstance, and I knew that I wanted to put him through the worst. Like I wanted everybody to want him dead. And it just wasn't like, it's not just the Russian mob. It's not just the two bank robbers he's with. The police department wouldn't mind if he died.
Right.
So if that happens, it happens. And just being like that whole feeling of like the entire world's against you. And maybe you have one or two guys who still, one or two friends who still believe in you.
Right.
And like putting people through that and kind of seeing where that leads you. Because I think we've all been like down on our luck and you feel like the world's against you.
Right.
And try to take that and like ramp it up to, where there's car chases and people being blown up and that kind of stuff.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So basically when I read it, instantly what came to my mind was Blues Brothers at the beginning.
Oh yeah.
I was like, uh-oh, Elwood's getting out of jail. Well, we got, or Jake's getting out of jail. What's Elwood going to get him into? That's kind of like the instant thing that I thought of when he was getting out of jail. I was thinking that, or actually 48 Hours.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can see that.
Those were the two that I kind of like I had in there in the thought process. And then just his dad alone reminded me of I don't know if you watched the Boondocks.
Oh yeah,
the cartoon with the Boondocks. The grandfather talking stuff to his son. I was like, okay. So I just had a bunch of mixtures in that, but it's interesting. I mean, I like it. I do. Like I said, I can't wait for issue 3 to come out. Biggie's Comics has another question for you. He says, what character / title would you love to write for?
That's always a tough one because I've had the benefit of working for DC on the custom side. So I've been able to write Batman and Wonder Woman and Superman. So the Holy Trinity on that side of things I got to touch before. But I grew up an X-Men kid. Back in the John Byrne, Chris Claremont, back when Wolverine was fresh, you had Colossus and Nightcrawler and all those guys. So that X-Men group will always have a special place in my heart. I don't know if I would be right for that title now, with what they're doing with the characters and multiple titles and that kind of stuff.
Right.
I'm kind of more the guy like, give me the character nobody cares about and let me write. Yeah. But you see what I'm saying? Like, give me somebody that nobody cares about, I can't mess up, and let me see if I can make them good. Hawkeye. Yeah.
You'd have a tough time fighting with that Matt Fraction.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. But Matt Fraction is like, dude, he's done such a fantastic job on that book. I don't know if I want to be the guy that tries to follow that up,
Hey, I'm a big fan of Jeff Lemire. He fell short, but I'm a big fan of Jeff Lemire on the Hawkeye. He's a good writer, but he fell kind of short on that. But again, I think it's because of Marvel. I've been saying this the whole time. I think Hawkeye needs a good writer, and by reading The Hard Place, I think you would have essential writing for it. For a Hawkeye. I do know I was just told today that they're supposed to be coming out with an old man Hawkeye or something like that. So they're going from old man Logan to old man Hawkeye. So I'm like, all right. And I'm like, well, we'll see how that goes. Cause I'm a Hawkeye fan. Like that little like, I know there's 3 of us in here, but that third person is actually me. That's my other account. I have that in here. Cause if I didn't have him in here, it would just be like you and nobody would see me at all. Period. So I have you presented so everybody sees you, but they at least can see the little guy here in the corner. So that's why, I'm a Hawkeye fan. I like Hawkeye. That or Namor. You can throw a Namor out there.
Namor, you might have a shot. Like, right. Hawkeye's would be, I bet you with that one, that's a tough one because him being a Marvel, cinematic guy, how much are they going to let you play with that?
Exactly.
That's where I would really want to like talk to the editor and be like, listen, if I work on this, I want us all to work together. Well, let's do something that hasn't been done with the character before and, try to like make them even cooler than they are already. Right. Hawkeye, is one of those, I bet, since he's in the cinematic universe, there's probably a tight leash.
Yeah, maybe. Very possible. Yeah, that could be it. Now, the opportunity just hasn't arose for you to work at Marvel, or you just haven't tried to apply for something at Marvel, or?
That I don't blame it on Marvel at all, because like I'm a horrible networker. Like when I'm at shows, you know, as a lot of creatives do. I mean, I have my own anxiety issues to deal with, but like if I walk into a bar and I don't recognize anybody, I usually leave. You know, I'm not the kind of guy that's going to like hang out.
Right.
Unless it's a football game on TV, then that could change everything.
Okay.
But to be honest, like I don't know a lot of people at Marvel. So I was lucky enough to have a couple of friends that worked for DC. So when a lot of stuff came up, they would, you know, they'd be like, "Hey, we got this thing with the Arrow TV show. Do you want to do like social media stuff, you know, comic book wise for that?" And they helped me out there. But when it comes to like the networking and selling myself, dude, I'm kind of on it. You know, hopefully my books speak for myself. You know, speak for me, because as you saw me at my table, I'm not going to force you to buy anything.
Right. Exactly.
I'm not that guy that's going to like grab your arm and go, "You have to read this. It's the best book ever."
Right.
It's like, yeah, I mean, I think it's okay. Like, check it out and see what you think.
Right.
It's
true. I mean, that's what you did too. I walked by and I looked. I was like, I seen the name and said, "Hey man, you did plastic." You're like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Well, what's this?" And you explained to me what it was, and I was sold. I was like, "Okay." I mean, it sounds like an interesting book. I mean, as a comic book collector, we go through the previews guides. Right. So that little synopsis is what sells us, right? I mean, just a little square of a paragraph, it sells us. If it doesn't sell you, then there's no reason to pick it up, you know? So, I mean, the fact that you're able to do that little paragraph, it sells itself. And then also, you know, it sold me on the book, and also sold my buddy on the book. So we picked it up, and I enjoyed it. I believe he enjoyed it. I believe he read it. I'm not sure. He's in the chat. Tat, did you read it? He'll answer that. Jeff Johnson, he mentioned that he said you'd be good to bring back some of the older heroes like Machine Man or Jack of Hearts.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, take away the crazy outfit that Jack of Hearts had, because I don't know if he still has that, like, you know, crazy schmuck that he wore that cards on it.
I don't know if he does anymore. Maybe you could revamp him to have something cooler than that.
Yeah.
That was very weird, that Jack of Hearts character.
What was the other one? Oh, Machine Man.
Machine Man, yeah.
But wasn't he in the what was the name of that book? I've got that over here somewhere. Next Wave. Wasn't he in Next Wave?
I'm not sure. I didn't read that. I didn't read Next Wave. Maybe somebody in the chat will know. Was Machine Man in Next Wave? We'll see what they say. So we got plastic. We got the hard place. We got some extra stuff that's coming next year you can't talk about.
Correct.
Now, what is something that you are pushing to try to work on? Like, is there something that you're trying to, you know, get an image, try to work on somebody, you know, co-write something with? Is there anything like that you're trying to do at all?
Really, it's just I have like this notebook filled with ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm loving. I mean, plastic did well. The hard place is doing decent. I'm loving that people are digging what I'm trying to do, because if you notice, like plastic and the hard place don't look anything alike. Even like from an art and coloring standpoint, I want everything to be unique as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So really, I'm just pushing on trying to get more and more ideas out there and trying to like have fun, you know, creating the characters that, you know, I've kind of had in this notebook for a year or two, or maybe even longer, and just like run with it. And the trick is just trying to do the best books I possibly can, man. You know, like trying to do something different in everything I touch, and see where that takes me. You know, as far as like where I'll be 2 years from now, I'm not sure. You know, it's like I know I want to keep creating books and writing new ones.
Right.
You know, and you know, let's see what happens.
Now, have you thought about taking up, maybe doing a little bit of art as well?
Oh, me? No.
No?
I don't want to draw at all.
No. Okay.
I mean, I know this will drive some of my artist friends crazy, but like you'll hear it a lot from writers like, I can't draw at all. And I mean, I can't draw at all. Like the stick man is tough for me. I don't even attempt it.
He said the stick goes sideways. I don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. That's, you know, and I mean, I love what they do. I have no interest in even trying to do that. Like I'm straight up writing. That's all I want to do.
Now, have you thought about doing a graphic novel?
Yeah, I mean, I did the World of Warcraft Bloodsworn graphic novel.
Okay. Okay, so that was a graphic novel.
Yep, that was straight OGN. So like, and it was originally supposed to be a 6-issue miniseries, but then we decided, or Blizzard decided they wanted to take it to graphic novel. And it was funny because I just saw Justin Jordan, the guy that did Luther Strode and great other books, Spread and stuff like that. He said he had written his first graphic novel, and graphic novels are tough, man. They're tougher than writing comics. Well, I think it's mostly because we get into the rhythm of writing 22 pages, and then you're like, here, write whatever you want. So it's one of those weird, like, well, what do you mean I don't have a page limit?
Right. I read somewhere another person said the same thing. I want to say it was Jeff Lemire, because he did that. He did Royals, and then at the same time he did Royals, he did another, I think it was like Roughneck or something like that. Yeah. Where he did that graphic novel as well. And he said the same thing. He said it's harder to write a graphic novel than a comic book, because you have no limit on the book, and you have to keep trying to figure out, wait, what did I write in chapter 1 again to keep it going with the next chapter? So that's crazy. I mean, but how's the crossover though? I mean, is the crossover somewhat similar, or do you have to put more? Obviously, you got to put more description, more detail in a graphic novel compared to a comic book, because you can let the artist do most of the detail, right? Yeah. So, I mean, how was that for you when you went and you did that? When you crossed over doing that for the Magic?
Yeah, it's such a different mindset. Like I said, like it's. Like I hear people like, well, why don't you write a novel? And I'm like, writing a novel versus a script is like telling somebody who does, oil paints to start doing watercolor tomorrow. It's not just you just switch a switch off and on and you can do something different. And so with the graphic novel, it took me a lot more work because, like you said, I mean, it's one continuous story, just like you were talking about. And like like when you look at it, you don't have to keep up with more than you do a 5-issue miniseries, but it feels like you're keeping up with more. Okay. And so you're like, okay, I can't have the typical, like, in Plastic, I was really proud of what we came up with issue break wise, like where we ended each issue. And I felt like we had good, cliffhangers. You don't have those in a graphic novel. So it's just a little bit different. You're thinking on a much bigger scale, like movie versus TV show versus, say, like Stranger Things, where you get 10 episodes.
Right.
What can you do and how much do you get to do? So it's such a different mindset that I couldn't write a graphic novel the same time I was writing a series. There's no way. I don't know how Jeff did it.
I don't either.
Yeah. I would have to stop everything else and put all of my energy in that graphic novel and only focus on that until it was done.
Now that being said, could you work on multiple comics? Or do you feel if you work on multiple comics, it basically drowns out the feeling in the writing of what you're doing in multiple comics compared to just taking all your focus onto one?
Yeah. I can say for me, now this is just for me and not, obviously brother, because like Justin Jordan and Jim Zub and Jeff Lemire and, Matt Fraction, a lot of great writers out there that can do 3 or 4 books a month.
Right.
That's not for me. I'm good at 2. 2 books a month is about as much as I can handle because I'm a little bit slower writer and I tend to think about things a little bit longer than those guys probably have to. They're obviously and I was talking to Donnie Cates. Yeah, and he was telling me he was like writing a script and a half a week. And I was like, I just don't know how you do that.
Like, he got like 3-4 titles out right now.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I guess like he's doing Doctor Strange, I believe, wasn't it in the last previews?
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yes, he's doing Doctor Strange now. That's right.
So he's got Doctor Strange, and I think that's twice a month.
Is it?
I think, I don't know. They had 2 issues in the last previews, but then he's got Redneck, and whatever else he's working on, and I'm just like, I don't know how you do it, man. Like I can't pull that off. Like I'm a slower writer than that. Two titles a month is what I'd like to stay at.
I mean, I like, there's things that like I like to, I say is when I start seeing a writer on multiple comics and it comes out, these multiple comics are coming out, like who's one that like Colin Bunn. He's on so many titles, and he's such a good writer. There's so many, and like I've read, like say I grab my favorite title of a Colin Bunn run or whatever he's writing at that moment, and I can just see the drop off from when he was just doing one book to now this one book is like issue, you know, when I started reading it, issue 1, issue 2, really good. Now issue 3 is coming out, but now he's got 2 books coming out the same month as that one, and then issue 4 comes out, and I just see the decline, and I'm like, I know Scott Snyder did it as well when he was doing New 52, and then he started doing Witches, and then he started doing another, what was it, Batman Eternals, and that was like a weekly comic, and I was just like, and I'm always like, I don't think writers should overdo it, you know, like 2 titles I can understand it, 3 titles I think that's when you're pushing it, 4 titles you're crazy, 5 titles I hope you're making the money and I hope your fans don't kill you, you know, like that's, I mean, it's just like, oh man. So that's good though, you like to keep it to 2. Now are you going to be putting 2 out together, or are you gonna keep it like how you did Plastic and then you dropped Hard Place? Are you gonna keep it like that, or are you gonna let 2 books come out simultaneously at one time?
I think next year, depending on how the schedule looks, but it looks like the schedule's lining up. Because, you know, obviously you don't want to put out anything in January and February because retailers, that's like the worst month to get them to buy anything. So it looks like if I launch 2 books during the summer, there'll be probably a little bit more overlap than there was for Plastic and the Hard Place.
Okay.
Because I can tell you, doing like, there's a big difference between doing an image book as a writer and doing just about working for any other company. So a lot of other places, you turn in a script, and your editor kind of handles all that other stuff.
Right.
At Image, you handle everything. Like, I'm the manager of the team. So, like, I got to make sure the team's turning in everything on time. I got to make sure the files get to Image, you know, to be printed. And if there's any problem with those, they usually contact me, and I have to contact the next person, get it all fixed. So I know, like, we had to turn in the last issue of Plastic, the first issue of The Hard Place, and the Plastic Trade all in the same week.
Wow.
I didn't do anything for 3 weeks other than get those files ready.
And I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you, as a writer, do you just write it? Here's my script, draw it, and I'll talk to you in a month or so, you know, when you get it done. But apparently with Image, you're the boss. You got to oversee everything. So that's something to learn right there in itself. Is with like Image, you are the person. It is essentially your book. Image is like, hey, we'll publish it. You know, we want our percent, but we're publishing your book. So essentially, I guess you are the commander in chief of your own stuff.
Right.
But that's, I mean, I guess it's something you don't think about as a person collecting the comics. You don't think about what it is the writer or the artist has to go through, or the colorist and the letterer, and the person who's doing the word balloons, you know, all that stuff like that. You know, you don't think about all of that, you know. So that's that was good right there. I like that. That was good insight on that one. I like that. So
I mean, you work like I work really close too with my production people. Like Shauna over at Image was the person that did the production for Plastic, and she's fantastic. But she's the one that catches like, hey, the black on this page isn't the same color as the black on this page.
Wow.
You know, then I have to call Laura and go, hey, we missed this. Like, hurry up and fix it.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
She catches something minute like that, huh?
Oh, that's why I love working with Shauna, because she catches everything. And I know that drives some people crazy, but for me, I want our books to be as perfect as they possibly can.
Right. If you have that at your leisure, why not use it and go with it? You know, I mean, that just shows that you're willing to make your book better and to get it right. You don't want someone going through and be like, why is there magenta here and pink here? Like, this is weird, you know? So that's pretty cool, you know? So is she doing The Hard Place as well, or just Plastic?
No, Vincent Kakua is doing The Hard Place. And Vincent I've known for years. He's worked at Image Production for a long time, like at least 14 years. And so I've worked with him a couple of times. So he's working with us on The Hard Place, and he's the same way. He's great at catching stuff and like letting us know. You know, Vincent's really laid back. He drives me crazy in that respect, because he always seems like he's in complete control. Right. And I'm the guy that's like panicking on the phone.
Well, you were in Portland early this month, or what's October now? I think. Yeah. So early September. Did you make it to the Image, not only the Image Ball, but did you make it to the actual Image new building that they have there?
No, I wanted to try to make it over there, but I wasn't able to on Monday. The problem is I ended up getting con crud like Friday night. So what I did is I made sure, like, I didn't want to go to the Image prom and get everybody at Image sick.
Okay.
So I just kind of took it easy, and I just went straight to the hotel that night and, like, loaded up on all kinds of vitamin C stuff and took it easy. And, when Monday came around, I was like, I'm not sure I'm not still contagious. I just don't want to. I tried to stay away from people and clean my hands as much as possible.
So you're the one that got me sick from that
It's
con
possible.
that day.
It's very possible.
Dang it. Dang it. No, that's funny. So you didn't go to the Image ball.
No, which is sad, dude, because I had a sweet, like, vest. I just bought a new vest.
Right.
A new, like, white shirt, and I brought a cool tie. I was ready, man.
Damn. I didn't go.
Yeah.
My date, the guy that was with me, he wouldn't go. He didn't want to take a shower. He didn't want to trim his beard. I was like, whatever, dude. We're not even going to go. You know. No, we just it would be weird going with a guy. I mean, especially that you've seen him. You see how tall he was, short me. Like, looking at him, I was like, nah, we're good. But no, it was good. It was good fun at that con. It was fun meeting you at that con. So, who was your inspirations as writers? I know you said John Byrne and Chris Claremont on that. So I'm assuming that obvious is going to be in the mix there for your X-Men. Now,
Chris
who else?
As far as comics, I mean, Frank Miller when he was doing Daredevil and the first Dark Knight, loved that stuff. Then it probably sneaks in over into regular books like Alan Dean Foster. Believe it or not, I really loved Anne McCaffrey when I was a kid.
Anne McCaffrey. What did she do?
He did like this Dragon saga. It was all sci-fi stuff because when I was a kid, I was a sci-fi nut.
Okay.
So Alan Dean Foster. I really got into Robert Heinlein for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Those probably would be my top sci-fi guys. And there's Chris Claremont, and Frank Miller. Because Frank Miller was doing stuff that nobody was doing at the time. He took Daredevil, who was sinking badly, and Marvel just basically handed it to him and said, "Hey, see if you can do anything with this." Who was writing Teen Titans at that time? I know George Perez was drawing it.
Yeah, Perez. I know. Yeah, that's the only one. That's the only thing I know.
Was it Mark Wolfman?
Yes, it was Mark Wolfman.
Yep.
He did the Teen Titans 44, which was the first appearance of the Nightwing. So yes, it would be Marv Wolfman.
Yep. And then I think Chuck Dixon when he was doing Alien Legion.
I don't know that book.
I think I've got that over here. Let me double check. Yep, it was Chuck Dixon. So
okay. There it is.
Yeah, I'm pulling out old stuff. I believe it was the Epic line.
Okay.
They had back in the day.
I know the Epic line.
And they were doing Alien Legion. Larry Stroman was the artist on it.
Okay.
And, again, it was sci-fi. Obviously, there's a theme going on here.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved that book for so many years, man. It was a great book. So I would have to say those are like all my major influence from the writing perspective.
What about Judge Dredd back in the day?
I didn't pick up Judge Dredd until later.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I loved it, but I wasn't quite. Like I said, Chris Claremont and Chuck Dixon at that point were the two books I was reading nonstop. Oh, and then you can't leave out Mike Mignola with Hellboy.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Mike Mignola with Hellboy. Yes, that's God. It's Mike Mignola. He's very good, and Mike Mignola, Stan Sakai, and Eric Larson, to me, get no love when they should. And it's sad, and it's just like, why aren't you guys like Savage Dragon is somewhere in like the 200s.
Yeah.
And it's still amazing read. Sagio Jimbo's in the hundreds and somethings, but if you add all the series together, he's somewhere in the 300s.
Yeah.
And Manola, who knows where he is with Hellboy? Hellboy's been spawned everywhere.
Yeah.
And these guys, I feel like they don't get love. Like right now, it's like they don't get much love, and it sucks because I'm that guy. I like to I collect the older stuff. Like I like going into the shop. Oh, Savage Dragon's on the shelf. Yoink. Ooh, Usagi Jimbo. Yoink. Like you can see the Stan Sakai signature here. I got a big.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I got a big drawing from Stan Sakai on my wall. Usagi Jimbo, that was done by one of the guys in the YouTube community. I'm a Usagi Jimbo fan. So that's why I'm like, man, these guys don't get no love. They need to get some love, some caressing. People need to check them out, but it's the new stuff. People like all the newer stuff, and you're one of the newer guys. And if it wasn't for me seeing you at the con, I probably wouldn't even know about Hard Place, because I didn't even know about the Hard Place. I told you, I was like, I had no clue. I didn't know this was out. You're like, yeah, it came out like 3 weeks ago. I'm like, where was I and where was my shop at with this book? Like, I didn't see it. So I'm glad that I was able to find you, meet you, read it. I knew about the plastic, read the plastic, but to find the Hard Place, because the Hard Place is, I like the Hard Place.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you that from time on, and like just straight the whole time. Like, I'm excited for a Hard Place. Like, a lot of people aren't excited for the Lethal Weapon TV show.
Yeah,
I'm excited for the Lethal Weapon TV show. I enjoy it. I was happy it came to season 2. So if there's a season 2 that's going to be of the Hard Place, I am already pre-ordering it. Just give me the pre-order code, and it's on its way on my list. I mean, that's just how I feel about it. So we go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, they're so different sales-wise. Like, I mean, plastic was an easier sell because Absolutely. All you had to do was say sex doll.
Yep.
And it'd catch people's ears. Mm-hmm. The Hard Place is a crime, noir kind of actiony kind of thing, mm-hmm. which there's other books out there like that.
Yep.
So that is a tougher sell, and you're like, well, you kind of have to sell it on its merits. I'm ecstatic that you loved it. That makes me feel good. But like, at the same time, it's a harder one to sell when you're at a shop, or even to a shop owner going, oh, well, it's another crime book. That's what, I hear that a lot.
Right.
Oh, it's a crime book. And you're like, yeah, so it's a tougher sell.
When I looked at, like, for plastic, the one thing for me is when I grabbed plastic wasn't because I was hearing about it. It was when I actually physically looked at it. When I seen it at the shop, the cover essentially is what, like, I think sold everybody. Because I know I looked through the previews catalog, and I know a lot of other people do too, but I know a lot of people who don't even touch the previews catalog, and they wait to see stuff happen on Twitter where maybe Image is promoting a new book that's coming out, or their shop saying, hey, you should check this out, because they read it Tuesday, because, shops normally get their stuff on Tuesday, they read it, and they say, hey, check this book out. But when I was there, when I went to the shop and I seen plastic, I was like, what is this? That cover, it totally blew me away. I'm like, what? And I started flipping through it, and I'm like, what? What is going on? And I'm like, all right. And I got it. And then I'm finding out that everybody's enjoying this and they love it. And I'm like, all right, let me sit down, eat my tuna sandwich, and read this book. And at one point I felt very awkward to eat a tuna sandwich while reading this book. I was like, this is very weird to me right now. I don't know if I can finish the sandwich or the book. Which one is it? But I finished both. Yeah. But I mean, I'm like, all right. So I think it had to do more with that cover. And then when you opened it and you started looking through the art, like I said, that art, crazy art and crazy colors in plastic. So, that's why I think that book sold. But I'm hoping you come with season 2 of both, to be honest with you. Both for, as in the Hard Place for me, and plastic for everybody else, and the sales for you. And then I'm looking forward to what you have going on. Right now we're at the 5-minute mark to what we have left. If there's anything else you want to go ahead and throw out there, anything that we should be going out and checking out that you may like collect or something you want us to check out, I mean, just throw out whatever you want to throw out right now. This is the time to do it. Tell somebody to go F themselves, whatever, whichever.
Well, I mean, if you haven't picked up Plastic, the trade is coming out on October 18th. It's got the whole thing in it.
Okay.
I will say I'm really, really happy with the way the trade turned out. It's beautiful.
Okay.
We got a really cool extra section in the back where you start with 2 pages of script and take it all the way to the letterer. So everybody tells you like what their process was and their approach towards the book. Again, the Hard Place #3 comes out next month.
This month.
Yeah,
this month.
Around October 25th, somewhere around there. Mm-hmm. Then past that, I mean, man, if you're, the 2 books I'm really liking right now, this one's easy, Saga and Paper Girls. Mm-hmm. Like, Brian K. Vaughan's killing it. I don't know how the guy's doing it every month, but every month it seems like every now and then he might have one that seems like it's a little slower than the others, but man, Brian K. Vaughan's killing it. So
I love Brian K. Vaughan.
Oh yeah.
We Stand on Guard. It's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah.
Why the Last Man? That would have been another one that I enjoyed as well. Wasn't a fan of Saga. My wife enjoyed Saga, and that's kind of like where I felt that book was more geared towards. I think. Maybe I'm just a man. I got a beard. That could be the reason why. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. It's a good read though. Everybody enjoys it, so I can't really knock too much. If everyone enjoys Saga, it's got to be good, and I must be the a-hole.
So maybe that's just, some books resonate with some people and some don't. It's
right.
Same with movies and TV. It's
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, so there it is. If you guys aren't reading Saga or Paper Girls, he suggests pick that up. But in October, would you say the 18th?
18th, yep.
18th, Plastic will have its trade paperback. You will have the scripts and the nice little sketching things in the back, which most trades will have.
Yeah.
Are they going to be coming a hardcover as well?
Not yet. So it's still in possible production. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. And then obviously pick up The Hard Place if you haven't checked it out. I mean, definitely check it out. I mean, I think it's a good read. It may not be for everybody, but it is a good read. I have fun with it. So with that, Mr. Doug Wagner, I appreciate you coming on and taking the time and speaking with me and everybody that's in the chat.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. It's always a joy. So,
well, thank you. And everybody who showed up, man, I appreciate you guys all. There's a few of you guys in here. We had Alex Comic Quarter, we had Buckshot, Jason Smith, David Comics Fine, Taz Comics, Cholula's Comics, Rebel Comics and Gaming, Funk Off. That's Funk Off, Buckshot 33. I've seen the Doom was in here, comics and stuff, Jeff Johnson's and Biggie's Comics. And if I miss you, I apologize. Cat Ran Figure, Midwest Comic Fan. Please, thank you. And I'll talk to you guys all later.
Okay.
Stop button. Ugh.